Welcome back to the Market Frontlines. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk. Today isn't about concepts, it's about execution. Now, the battery space is crowded, capital is getting tight, if not tight already, and only a handful of companies are actually getting purchase orders, vendor approvals, and inbound interests from global players. One of those companies is Neo Battery Materials. Based in Toronto, Neo is working with Fortune 500 automotive customers, stepping into defense and surveillance applications, as well as expanding beyond theory into real production and real demand. Now, this is the part of the battery story investors care about. Who's delivering and who's not? I'm joined by Danny Haas, Senior Vice President of Strategy and Operations for Neo Battery. Danny sits at the center of strategy, at the center of scaling, and the execution, exactly where decisions turn into contracts and capacity really actually is the one that turns into revenue. Danny, welcome back to the Market Frontlines. It's so great to see you.
Great to see you. Always being a pleasure here.
Now, let's start with the big news. Big news. Neo just secured a purchase order from a Fortune 500 automaker, or a couple of them. Huge news. So congratulations on that. Danny, what went into landing these deals, and what should investors read between the lines about your ability to deliver?
Yes, absolutely. So we're greatly excited to onboard two anchor Fortune 500 automotive customers. Unfortunately, we can't disclose their names, but they are car brands that go on the road today. And one of the main critical reasons that we've been able to retain these customers is because of our operational readiness, our technology, as well as the product quality and consistency. Because right now, quite surprisingly, the big automotive companies still don't have internal capabilities to manufacture industry quality battery electrodes, which are the insides of a battery, as well as the cells themselves. So they usually have to outsource this to other companies within the global battery value chain. But the large industry giants will not usually produce these types of pilot scale battery cells for them for testing, because they focus more on mass produced standardized batteries. So the automotive companies were scrambling where to go, but they've been able to fortunately find Neo Battery, in which we currently produce industry grade high performance batteries so that they can test their batteries very effectively internally.
Well, and speaking of validation, you officially also became a vendor for a major Asian OEM. Danny, that's a gatekeeper moment most companies spend years chasing. So congratulations on that as well. What did this process reveal about your operations?
Yes, absolutely. So this was actually with one of our two automotive customers that we've mentioned, but it's one of the Asian Fortune Global 500 company. And this is significant news for us because prior to getting the purchase orders from these companies, we would have to go through an intermediary to get these purchase orders. But after firm evaluation of our operational readiness, as well as our technology, and their confidence that we can supply these types of pilot scale materials to them, that's why they've given us the check of approval for us to become an official vendor under their supply chain management systems. And maybe this doesn't sound big for some people, but why this is of significant relevance for us is that we can directly deal now with these companies. And this provides us an opportunity to elongate the customer relationships between these automotive parties, because EVs, although the industry hasn't done too well, the industry giants are still continually innovating in terms of their battery performance so that they can deliver much more better performing EVs at lower costs. So we do expect that there will be continual demand for pilot scale battery cells for their testing applications.
Well, how does this set up your to be able to handle multiple clients at once then?
Yes, that's a great question, because right now, the battery manufacturing factory in South Korea is capable of manufacturing about 250 megawatt hours in capacity annually. And megawatt hours just means how much energy can be stored. So that is stipulated in terms of the capacity that we have at the factory. So right now, what this factory is actually capable of supplying to for the insides of the battery is approximately 4 million laptops or 16 million smartphones. And let's say we just produce for the drone sector, that's about 100,000 heavy duty cargo drones to about 8 million professional drones. So we actually have quite a lot of capacity in our South Korean factory, but we do see that this is still not enough capacity. So what we are targeting to do by the end of this year is to double capacity. And how we're doing this is not by adding more expensive battery manufacturing equipment, but it's actually adding a night shift so that we can operate more hours throughout the day and night to deliver higher capacity without having to add much more expensive equipment into the factory itself.
Fair enough. That's a good move right there. Now, I know also NIO is now developing drone batteries with Cody. Am I saying that right? Cody?
Coity, yes,
For the
I believe
fence
so.
application? Yes. So how does this move actually fit into your overall growth strategy and tie it back to your automotive and energy storage business?
Yes, absolutely. So, how we view the drone defense and the robotics sector that we're going into is more of the high growth business that NEO wants to target. Now, the automotive sector, as I said, will remain as more of a cash cow business for the company. But in order for our company to grow, we really need to penetrate ourselves into the markets that are growing, especially because of AI. And now today, defense batteries are becoming of much more prevalence because today, within the global markets, as you may or may not know, but 80 to almost 90% of the world's batteries are being produced in China today. So this inevitably leads to supply chain security concerns as well as price volatility. And what makes things worse with regards to this type of large geographic concentration is that even if batteries are procured outside of China, there is a lack of customization. So let's say the drone battery wants to run for 4 hours. It's only going to run about 2 or 3 hours because of this lack of customization. So this is why NEO has identified this opportunity of manufacturing outside of China, but also providing a hyper customized solution for us to help electronics like drones and robotics to realize their full performance potential. So the best way to understand NEO's strategy is that we are currently targeting the immense supply deficit of batteries outside of China.
Well, innovation seems to be literally baked into NEO's DNA. You've partnered with top universities for research. How are those collaborations translating into an edge, in next-gen drone tech and AI electronics that investors might still be missing?
Yes, absolutely. So innovation is a key part of Neo Battery's DNA because right now, an overarching problem within the lithium-ion battery industry is that unlike chips that evolve each year, NVIDIA introduces their new AI chips. Unfortunately, in the battery industry, we don't have too many innovations that come each year just because of the nature of the difficulty of improving battery performance. But this is where we take the stronghold because what we have also developed internally is a proprietary silicon battery technology solution where we can increase the materials capacity by 40% plus. But also we have a manufacturing innovation to produce these materials at around 60%, at least 60% cheaper compared to our competitors. So this is one portfolio that has given us the competitive edge in manufacturing the batteries, which can enable drones robotics to perform for much of a longer time and have higher charging and discharging rates that can provide a big edge in terms of their performance. But also partnering up with institutions is also something that we're actively doing. And that's because all of the institutions have their creativity in increasing the battery performance. So we see that we're going to be partnering up with global institutions, academia all over the world to introduce new, even if it's incremental, battery performance improvements to help our batteries have a bigger competitive edge compared to the industry giants today.
Well, Danny, I actually want to take what you just said and really expand on that. I mean, with NEO expanding into the US, Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and even Germany, adding new cylindrical and prismatic lines, you're doubling capacity. I think you were at 250 and now you're at 500 megawatts, right? So how do you decide which markets and products to focus on, and what can investors realistically expect in terms of revenue and long-term positioning here?
Yes, absolutely. The reason why right now at the current battery factory in South Korea, as I've said, we have the capabilities to manufacture the insides of the battery, but also the batteries themselves. And there are three current key formats of batteries that are being produced in the global industry. One's called the pouch, one's called cylindrical, and one's called prismatic. And right now within the current facility, we have pouch cells where we can make them small to large scale depending on the application. But these pouch cells are more put in towards drones, EVs, and more consumer electronics. But because Neo Battery wants to take a stance in trying to serve as many markets as possible, because we have the internal expertise to develop batteries efficiently and at scale for any types of electronics application. This is why we're adding on the cylindrical lines as well as the prismatic lines in 2026, so that we have all the capabilities to manufacture any types of batteries for any types of electronic systems. So this would eventually help us get a bigger market to make more revenues and also take more cash flows, so that we're not just relying on one single market, but we create multiple revenue streams across different electronics systems.
Danny, another great conversation. It's always great just sitting and chatting with you and just learning so much about an industry that's still needs so much more education. So thank you again for sitting with us, and definitely come back. I'd like to hear more.
Thank you so much, Lyndsay.
Again, that was Danny Ha from Neo Battery Materials. He's the SVP Strategy and Operations, trading on the venture under NBM. Now, this is a team that's actually powering tomorrow, and you blink and you'll miss it. So head over to neobatterymaterials.com to learn more. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk with Abaton Media, and this is the Market Frontlines. We will see you next time.